Welcome to Second Saturday, your monthly TV show produced at Brick Arts in downtown Brooklyn. My name is Professor Alfonso Severos. Second Saturday explores those topics and unique personal experiences that enhance our understanding of the world, its history, current events, and our connection to each other as global citizens. Over the years, many African Americans have visited various countries in Africa, and each had their own unique experience and story to tell. Today's show, Africa, a Personal Experience, is the third and final episode in our series on Africa. My guest, Felicia Day Cornegay, has a very interesting story to share. I met her over 10 years ago when she was a student at Hostos Community College. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's been a while since we had the opportunity to speak.
Yes.
Now, I knew you well over 10 years ago when you were a student at Hostos Community College. And for those who don't know, Hostos Community College is a community college and part of the City University system located in the South Bronx. What year did you graduate?
I graduated 2006.
2006. When you left Hostos, I believe you went to NYU. Can we talk
did.
about that experience?
The way we got acquainted was through Phi Theta Kappa. You were my advisor
Right, that's the Honor Society.
for the International Honor Society for two-year colleges. And I ended up at NYU through what they have is the Community College Transfer Opportunity Program, which is which caters specifically for honor students in two-year colleges and allows them to get into universities who are affiliated with that program and to do their four-year degree. And so I went to NYU and got my bachelor's in communication studies with a concentration in cross-cultural communication and media technology.
Fantastic. When you were at NYU, you did a study abroad. Can you tell us about that experience?
I did. I always loved to travel. My
Right.
parents took me around a lot when I was younger, and so I've always kind of had wanderlust in that sense. And so I found out about the study abroad program, I want to say right after I got to NYU,
Right.
and thought it was cool. And they had one site in Africa, just one, and that was in Ghana. And luckily it was affiliated with my degree program, so I was like, I have to go. And and after I got all of my required courses out of the way, I signed up for study abroad and they accepted me, and I
Off
was
you
on a
went.
plane.
Was this your first time out of the country?
No, it wasn't my first time out the country. It was my first time in Africa.
Okay.
It was my first time all the way across the Atlantic. I had been to all over the Caribbean as a kid. I've been to Mexico as a kid, but I had never been across the ocean. So this was my first time actually going.
Now, you're from
that
Harlem.
way. Yes, born
Were
and
you
raised.
born in Harlem Hospital?
No, actually Metropolitan on the east side.
Metropolitan on the east side, yes. I know that hospital. Yes. And so, was this after your first year at NYU that you did the study abroad?
Yes, I did I did my whole first year with my required courses. So like there was some stuff that I had to just get out the way. And then I went that following year for the fall semester.
And that was to Ghana,
Yes, to Ghana. We stayed in Accra. We were based in Accra.
which is the capital.
Which was the capital of Ghana. And then as part of the requirements, they took us all over the country. So we went all up the Volta region, all the way to the top at the border, saw all like the historic sites, the Ashanti village, the slave castle, just lots of everything. I got a full intake of Ghana.
And you were there for how long?
I was there for close to 6 months. It was a full
A
semester.
full semester abroad.
Yeah, so we left in August. We arrived in August, and then I came home in December.
Did you do any language requirements? Was there any language requirements?
No, there wasn't a language requirement because due to colonialism, Ghana was, I mean, just
English-speaking.
being honest,
Yes.
Ghana is an English-speaking country.
I know.
And most people there speak English, or they speak Pidgin, which is kind of a creolized version of like English and another one of their original languages. And I picked up a few words in Tree, but I can't remember.
Okay.
I remember like Akwaba.
Well, did you stay on the University of Ghana's campus in their dormitories? Was that the arrangement? Or usually NYU has their own separate dormitories.
Yes, NYU had us set up in separate housing in a suburb called Labone, which is about, I want to say, maybe a 15, 20-minute ride from the campus itself. And then I went to, because we had two universities that NYU partnered with. There was University of Ghana, Legon, which is where I went, and then there was also Ashesi University where some other students went. And that was right in the same area in Labone, so a lot of those students were able to walk to class, but I had to take the shuttle to get to UG.
Right. How was that program structured in terms of the amount of free time and activities you were able to go to on your own?
It was very kind of open in that way. They were kind of protective in the sense of like taking you to and from the university, and you lived on the grounds. And then I lived in a very small house with 9 other girls, and then there was another section that they had students in, which is kind of like a compound, and that's now the main space that they use, and they've expanded that. And the house where I was in is now just for where the teachers live, who come from NYU. But outside of classes, you were just kind of on your own.
Okay.
It's just kind of like go explore and just make sure you get back safe.
And I'm sure that's what you did.
And that's exactly what I did.
Right.
I was able to kind of just wander but not get lost. Okay. So I made a lot of friends with like vendors in town, a lot of the market women who I would buy like my produce from, or like fabric and stuff. And I still have a lot of connections with people there that I became acquainted with in Ghana.
Great.
Just kind of just out and about, just wandering around. Because afterwards, you come home from class, the TV is not really the same. So it's not like you're going to sit and watch TV all day. And then it's like, well, what do you do? So you go out and make friends. And Ghanaians are very friendly people. Very, very friendly people.
How did they respond to you as an African-American female?
I had mixed responses. The women took a while to warm up to me. At first, there was kind of like this apprehension, kind of like, who's this American girl? There's this assumption that like you're coming to take their men or whatever else they may think you're coming to take. And so it took a while for them to kind of get accustomed to me and realize that that wasn't the case. And then afterwards, I was everybody's daughter, niece, grandchild, whatever. And the men also kind of on the opposite end in thinking that you're there to take them. And once realizing that, no, I am not interested in that sort of relationship, I made all sorts of friends. The men that I originally made friends with were Muslim men, which was very easy to just kind of keep things separate.
Right.
In that sense.
I can understand that.
And I'm very close with a few of their families. I'm actually trying to work it out so I can go next year. One of my friends from Ghana is getting married there next year. So I want to go and celebrate with them.
Now, you participated in a very unique ceremony while you were in Ghana. And I'm envious because I always wanted to do this. When I was in West Africa, I did not do any of that. The naming ceremony.
Yes.
Tell us about that experience.
As part of our itinerary with NYU, which in retrospect I think was part of them trying to immerse us in the culture and get us acquainted, but then also I felt like they could have tweaked it a bit more, could have gave us a bit more prep. We were taken to a village just outside of Accra, not too far. And we were told that we were going to participate in a ceremony, or at least go to a ceremony, and then afterwards go and like look around. There were some other attractions that they wanted us to see. And I made sure that I had on something white, because when you go to these sorts of ceremonies, you need to at least have on something white or bright colors. And the villagers came out and they presented us all with these handmade clay pots and bracelets. And on each of the pots was our new names. They had looked up our birthdays. to find out what day we were born, because in Akan culture, you usually are given a name based on the day that you were born. And so the name that I was given was Afi Jose,
Okay.
and Afi means girl born on Friday. I didn't even know at that point that I was born on Friday, but I went and looked it up to double check afterwards.
Now we have a photograph of that event. Is that
Yes.
on screen now?
Yes, that is me receiving the bracelet from one of the women in the village. They gave us these clay pots with our names on them,
Right.
and then they gave us bracelets,
Okay.
like handmade bracelets with these glass and clay beads, very beautiful beads, and they came and tied them on each of us.
And they actually looked up your birth date. And I assume there's some system associating the date of your birth with a particular name.
Yes. So the names are different for boys and girls. So I forget the run through for the days of the week, but like for the boys, all of their names usually starts with K's. And so it's like Kweku, Kwame, those sorts of names. And then for the girls, all of their names starts with A's. And so I have Friday, and so my name is Afi, which is AFI, and it stands for girl born on Friday.
Okay. Now there's a second name.
And Jose, which means believer. So it's like the girl on Friday who believes, which is
Okay.
pretty much an accurate description of me.
Right. Okay. How was that ceremony to you personally?
I was really honored. Being an African American.
Right.
And as soon as I got to Ghana, I cried. Like, I just was like, I'm on African soil.
Yes.
And then to be able to take part in a ceremony like that was a big deal for me, which is why I was so upset that I felt like everyone else wasn't taking it as seriously.
Sure.
And so I was like, you should have wore white. Like, what is wrong with you people? And you should have listened to me. And this all these sorts of things. And I was very kind of honored to be in that space.
Sure.
Because one thing that I feel gets lost a lot of times, particularly when people in general go as tourists and they go to these sorts of places, they say, let's go see the village, let's go see the huts, and that sort of thing. You have to keep in mind, these are people's homes.
Sure.
This is where people are living and make their livelihood. And so you have to come in with a certain sort of, approach. And so I wanted to make sure that I was, being very humble, but also I was kind of like excited and geeked out because I'm like, oh my God, there's the chief.
I mean, I can understand that clearly because for some students, it may be a trip, an experience, but for others like yourself, it's like going home.
Right. And that was one of the things. It's a shame, but it is what it is, where there was the treatment differently for me. So there was a treatment, let's say, of the white classmates who went with us, where it was like this expectation that you came as part of like whatever, and you're here for this trip. You're going to look at us, take pictures with our babies, and go about your business. But when they saw us, there was only 4 of us out of that entire group, out of a group of 20.
4 people of color.
Yes, and we were all women.
Okay, women of color.
Yes. And it was like this idea like, welcome home.
Okay.
Welcome home, my sister. And that was just like,
we have another picture up. And this picture is?
That is me with the spokesman for the chief. I at first thought he was the chief, but he wasn't. He's the spokesman for the chief. And the reason I didn't get to meet the chief was because he was in mourning. His daughter had passed away the day before. So I was still just as geeked out to meet him because just when I see elders in general, I just think of like all the wisdom and like the things that they have seen and have learned and know. And so he was just really, really sweet guy and knew very little English, but was like just so welcoming. And just amazing. Like he had amazing energy.
That must have been a unbelievable experience for you. I'm such an advocate of study abroad, as you probably know. I did that at Hostos, and I think it's so important for if young people have the opportunity to step out of their little area, get off the block, redefine themselves, see part of this world,
Absolutely.
become part of the global community. It can only enhance you. So I'm an advocate so much for that,
Absolutely.
and I'm glad you took that opportunity.
Yes, me too. It's changed the way that it has really changed the way that I view the world
Right.
in general.
We have another picture up, and can you explain this picture?
Oh, yes, that is me. That was actually right before we left. We were like scrambling to take memory photos. And that is at the entrance to the University of Ghana in Legon.
Oh, okay. I constantly talk to students even now, and I'm basically retired, and I'm only on campuses a few hours a week, part-time. And I talk to them about the study abroad program. In the City University of New York, it has an unbelievable study abroad program. If you're in one school, you can attend study abroad given by another CUNY school. Plus, they offer scholarships to most students. CUNY does study abroad in about 40, 50 different countries. So it's the intercession during the January period or the summer. You can do it during the summer or the full semester like you did in Ghana. So now, what else about Ghana? How was the music and the food and the nightlife and all that stuff?
I don't think we have enough time on the show for all of that. I mean, the food was great. I kind of got accustomed. They cook a lot with palm oil.
Yes.
And I really don't like palm oil. No, the food that I had was kind of saturated in it. So like when it was just kind of like cooked in it and not coated in it, it was awesome. But I ate a lot of like street food too. I'm really big on like just street food in general. Yeah. It's like a lot of like just kind of skewer sticks, fried plantains on the side of the road. Oh yeah. Just anything.
I know it's so important to emerge in a culture when you go to a country, and don't bring your insecurities.
Yeah.
If it doesn't kill them, it won't kill you.
Yeah. I'm really open. I'm one of those people where I'm like, at least try it once.
Exactly.
And if you don't like it, you can move on. But don't just look at it and say, oh, no, I don't know what that is. Because you're never going to know.
Yeah.
And there's always a history tied into it.
Sure.
And so, like, for instance, I discovered I just don't like fufu. Can't do it. Just won't. It doesn't work with my palate and the texture. It's not my thing. But I love the stews.
Okay.
I love the stews. Like, they make amazing stews. That was the first time I had groundnut soup.
Sure.
And they have it with fish, or they have it with beef, or they have it with chicken. And I could eat myself sick on that. Just nonstop. It's amazing. But fufu, not so much.
Music.
The music, I like the music. I didn't like it as much at first, but they did listen to a lot of hip hop and stuff. And at first, I was kind of like, okay,
I didn't travel all this way to listen
to. Yeah, like I wanted to hear some of like what they make, and so they do hip life.
Hip life.
Yes, it's called hip life music, and it's kind of like it's almost reminiscent of like Fela Kuti.
Okay.
But kind of like, but with more of a heavy bass involved. So I know a lot of it is derived from like the stuff that he kind of laid out as a foundation. Sure. But it's really cool. And then like now they have like a lot of rap music on the scene. Like they're really Ghanaian like rappers.
It's amazing the influence of rap culture around the world.
It is. It is so incredible.
And I always say to myself, that kind of influence, can we imagine what it would do if it was a total positive message?
Oh, that would be awesome.
It would change the activity and the mindset of young people globally.
Yes, I have an anecdotal story for you.
Okay.
When I went, if you go back to the pictures from me at the naming ceremony, you see I have on an orange shirt that says, I'm so Harlem, right? Because I just take Harlem with me wherever I go, right? So I'm like, first time in Africa, you're going to know that I'm from Harlem. And we were at a dinner, and there were some Ghanaians there. One of my friends had started dating the guy, and so he had brought like his friends. And he goes, well, where are you from? I'm like, from Harlem. And one of them stands up at the back of the table, and he's like, oh, Dipset, Dipset, Dipset. And it's just like, this is the worst possible Harlem connection that you could have. Dipset, really?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, what's up, my nigga? And I was like, we are not going to do that at all. And then you associate me with Dipset. Like, no shade to Cameron and the rest of them, but I'm just not particularly a fan.
Exactly.
But I'm all the way in Ghana, and the first connection to Harlem is them.
Exactly.
And I was mortified, like just
I know.
beyond mortified.
I mean, that image, what people don't realize, the image put out there influences the entire world perception of us.
Absolutely. I mean, because then they want to talk about cars and jewelry and like what it's like back in Harlem if everyone's rolling around in a Bentley. And I'm like, it's definitely not.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's all make believe. So please stop believing that.
Right.
So if the more positive stuff, so if something like, for instance, if they knew more about the Roots than they did about Dipset, I would be totally happy.
Okay.
But unfortunately, no.
So you did this semester, this 6 months in Ghana. When you came back, was there a change in you?
Yeah, I wanted to go back. That was the more immediate change. I immediately wanted to see more. And that kind of sparked my interest in wanting to kind of go around Africa more. I also did a few days in Morocco.
Ah.
Yeah, because as part of the semester break, I got to go up north to Morocco. And I have an uncle who has family there. Well, his in-laws are there.
Fantastic. I've been in Morocco too.
And so they took me in and overfed me and were just amazing. And so I got to see Casablanca and a little bit outside of that city. And even in the kind of, and even in kind of like the difference between Accra and Casablanca.
Night and day.
Completely night and day.
Night and day.
But then also what really interested me in going forward and doing international affairs for grad school was how little they know of each other.
I know.
So I went to Casablanca during the end of Ramadan. So in Accra, or in Ghana period, there's a huge Muslim population, right? And what they do is at the end of Ramadan, they have a huge festival for Eid, like huge, like shut down the city, like everybody goes, Christians, Muslims, people in between. It's just like a city thing. Like we are celebrating Eid. And I didn't know about it until after I'd booked my ticket and was pissed because I was like, I totally want to go to this festival. Like this is going to be amazing. But I was already committed to going to Morocco. So I was like, I'm going to go to Morocco, have a wonderful time, stick with it. And when I got to Morocco and told them like, well, I'm really happy to be with you guys, and I mentioned something about the festival for Eid back in Accra, and these very like educated Moroccan people, like one of them was like a professor at the university, had been teaching all over the continent, looked at me seriously and was like, there's Muslims in Ghana? And I was like, there's thousands upon thousands of Muslims in Ghana. He's like, oh, and then he was like, oh, well, but they're not like real Muslims. I was like, they're about as real as it gets. Yes. Like they're practicing the same way you do.
I talked about this on my other show. We tend to think of Africa as one place, and it's so diverse and different. North Africa is completely different from West Africa.
Absolutely.
North Sahara's from Sub-Sahara. There is so much more. We've only touched the tip of the iceberg.
We're still in undergrad. I haven't even told you about grad school.
I didn't even get to the topics in which I brought you on the show for. So this is what we're going to do. We got to do this again.
Okay.
So
I'm around.
Our next show, you're going to be my guest again.
Okay.
And we will continue this very interesting journey. So I'd like to thank you for coming on this show, and I'll see you on the next show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I'll see you again on the next second Saturday. You come back to New York. You graduate from NYU. What next?
Well, I graduated with my BS in communications
Right.
and was still very set on doing working in media. That was really what I wanted to be Oprah. While I was there, I had learned a lot about the media landscape in Ghana and how that works. And one of my mentors there, Audrey Godzekpo, is kind of like Ghana's Oprah, where she has like a magazine and she teaches at the university and she has a show and she's just Renaissance woman extraordinaire.
Okay.
And I was just kind of like, I like her angle because she's also very Pan-African.
Okay.
So she is also heavily involved in social justice movements. And that kind of really sparked it for me. It was kind of like, I don't want to just work in magazines. I don't want to just work, at a TV station. Like, I want to do something more. I wanted to be like Audrey. And so I finagled my way into this lawyers conference
I love it.
up in Johannesburg at the University of Witwatersrand, or Wits. And I did this presentation on how socioeconomics affects the way that lawyers treat people. I remember I was in the cab on the way back to where I was staying, this lodge. And the taxi driver realizes I'm American. He goes, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm saying, "Oh, I'm doing this presentation at the university."
This is all part of the internship. Right?
Yes.
Okay, right.
So I'm doing this presentation at the university on XYZ. And he stops like mid-traffic, like we're almost at the intersection. I'm scared he's about to get hit by another car coming behind us. And turns around and he's like, "You have to come back. And when you come back, bring your people with you because they won't listen to us, but they'll listen to you." And I was like,
That's a pretty powerful statement
okay.
for a South African to say
Yes.
to a non-South
Yes,
African.
even when I was giving the presentation, I'm getting this extreme pushback from these lawyers in the room who are white. And then you have a few law students who even in the mindset of like not sitting in the front, they go straight to the back. The fact that the Constitution is typically translated in all 11 languages, but only readily available in English is a problem.